Welcome to this week's episode. My name is Gadiel Flores, and we will be exploring sexual violence on college campuses and how institutional responses can either support or silence survivors. This is a political and structural issue, not just an individual one. As Cecilia Menjivar writes in the Framework for Examining Violence, violence doesn't always take obvious forms. It can be embedded in the very systems that are supposed to protect us. When schools delay action or fail to act at all, that too is a form of harm. For this project, I spoke with two people from our campus community. The first is a faculty member who believes that the university does have strategies in place to support survivors, though she admitted that she hasn't been directly involved in any specific cases. Her insight reflects how institutional tools may exist, but their effectiveness depends on how and whether they are used.
Hi, my name is Cynthia Padilla, and I am an advisor here at the University of New Mexico.
Do you think your college takes sexual violence seriously? Why or why not?
Yes, I do think we take that very seriously. It is our our duty to make sure that our students feel safe on campus and that we have zero tolerance for.
Okay. What barriers do survivors face when trying to report or seek help on campus?
Um, I think that some of the barriers they may face that don't necessarily mean that they don't have the help. I just think it takes them some time to feel comfortable with sharing who they want to share to. Um, and I can see that being one of the reasons why sometimes they're afraid of speaking up. Um, but I do think that once they do talk to either a advisor or a faculty member, any other staff member, we are actually obligated to report that, and then they have somebody else who reaches out to them to get them the appropriate help that they need.
Okay. Have you or someone you know ever tried to report sexual violence to the school? What was the experience like?
I haven't had an experience like that.
Okay.
Luckily, I haven't known
All right.
anyone
All right.
in my time working here. Luckily, yeah.
Okay. All right. Do you think a survivor's race, gender identity, or immigration status affects how the institution responds?
No, and I would hope that would not be their experience either. Again, I haven't had that experience where I've encountered a student that's been through that, but I would hope that whoever that they talk to wouldn't have or hold those biases whenever they do share what happened to them, and would still get them to the right help.
Okay. And so, what changes would you like to see the college make to better support survivors and hold perpetrators accountable?
I Again, I think because I haven't
Mm-hmm.
met with someone or had an experience with someone that has dealt with that. Um, I think I have limited experience knowing if there would be an issue where the perpetrator wouldn't be held accountable.
Mm-hmm.
um, but that being said, maybe have other systems in place that would help a survivor feel comfortable sharing the name of the perpetrator, because I know sometimes that can be, again, something that they're nervous about.
Okay.
And I understand. Yeah, I understand their fear too.
The second person I spoke with is a student who chose to remain anonymous. She bravely shared her experience navigating the school's response after she reported her case. While the university eventually took action, the delay made her feel unsupported, left in limbo during a vulnerable time. Her story echoes the concerns raised in Sarah Jeffy's The Collective Power of #MeToo, where she writes that storytelling is resistance, and that when survivors speak, they challenge institutions that often fail them. Do you think your college takes sexual violence seriously? Why or why not?
I believe that the University of New Mexico has definitely grown in supporting victims of sexual assault, but I also think that we have a lot more growth that needs to happen, especially with a lot of the different types of sexual assault and the types of violence that happens here on campus still, even at within Lobo Village, within the dorms here. So I think we've grown a lot, but other than that, I think there's still room to grow for sure. But there's always room to grow.
What barriers do survivors face when trying to report or seek help on campus?
I think there are a lot of barriers that a lot of survivors seek or have, especially like one of them being their attackers coming back and like, you know, just pushing them to not speak about it or speak or forcing them to just stay quiet about the situation that they were put in. Um, and another one I think is a lot of people not believing in victims of sexual assault. A lot of people like to just brush it off and think that it's not that serious since it didn't happen to them. So I think those are the two of the really two big main barriers for victims of sexual assault.
Have you or someone you know ever tried to report sexual violence to the school? What was that experience like?
Um, I've had to report a sexual assault violence once for myself, and it was genuinely kind of scary. I had to have one of my friends go with me, but at first I didn't really feel supported, which was like kind of like hard, and I would just keep bugging the school about the situation that happened, and I finally did get some like clarity and some support from the school after a few tries. So I think that's why I said at the beginning that the university can still grow from supporting victims of sexual assault. And I would say my experience with the university through having to go through them was kind of scary, but I had the support of my friends and the support of my loved ones, and it was really a goodish experience, I guess. It wasn't the best, but it wasn't the worst because they heard me out and they were willing to hear me out. So, yeah.
Do you think a survivor's race, gender identity, or immigration status affects how the institution responds?
I think I view the university as a very inclusive university, very diverse, but I think sometimes a lot of things can get in the way of what they believe in and everything. And as a Mexican American, I guess that was I feel as though my race was definitely a part of what why they wouldn't listen, like really. So yeah, I think it very much does affect them, and it's definitely something that the university can grow from. And yeah, I think not everything deals with race or inclusivity or immigration status. It's just I think a lot of people struggle with understanding that this can happen to anyone, and it's not just based on your race or who you are as a person. So yeah.
What changes would you like to see your college make to better support survivors and hold perpetrators accountable?
There are a lot of changes that the university can make within, you know, our university. It's a very big university, and so I think there's a lot of change that can still be made. One, for example, I think discussing it more often, having support groups, which I believe there are a few on campus, but I think we should make them more known. Um, and just supporting victims who have like come across an incident where they were sexually assaulted, and just having that support system is such a big deal. And I understand like Lower Respect is there, and there's like the Women's Resource Center. There are all these resources that the university has to support these sexual assault victims, but I think a lot of victims fear coming out and discussing it. So I guess making it more known that it's okay that it, happened, but it's not okay that it happened. It's more just I guess letting them know that it's not their fault, and that no one should have to go through something like that. So I would definitely say a lot more known resources for these victims and a lot more like support groups, and then also just having like little like rallies to just like be able to discuss these certain things that happen, and that it's not really like the victim's fault. You know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of victims do think it's their fault when it happens, and they shouldn't have to feel like that. And I think there should be resources on campus that gives them that like support system, because a lot of people don't have a support system here. So yeah.
Thank you once again for listening. As these conversations show, it's not just whether college responds, but how, when, and for whom. Structural violence isn't always visible. It can be delays, closed doors, or policies that look good on paper but fail in practice. True institutional support must be survivor-centered, transparent, timely, and accountable. That means not just having policies, but living them. And it also means recognizing that survivors do not experience harm or healing the same way. As Robert and Jesuitson emphasize, intersectionality isn't just a theory, it's a necessary lens for justice. Change isn't possible, but it begins with listening and with refusing silence. By sharing these stories, we follow the legacy of #MeToo and countless survivor-led movements that remind us speaking out is power. If you or someone you know needs support, please reach out to campus or community resources. You are not alone.